Hello and welcome back to you all. As I'm continuing to read the novels, I hope you will continue to enjoy the novels along with me. They were the progenies of a war-torn province, the ones who grew up among the grim faces of the army men under the shadow of the dark green helmets, the cries of the revolutionaries and the hatred in the eyes of guerrillas. She was 6 years old when she first saw a corpse and 9 when she heard a blast about 50 feet away. The deaths of her cronies, the crackdowns, the blast, and the metamorphosis of school-going boys into militants. These were the things that replaced the cartoons during their childhood. They had seen the death toll rise, and not in graphs, but in the number of bodies being dumped into the graveyards, the ashen faces of the mother holding wilted photos of their disappeared sons and roaming around streets searching for their corpses to satisfy them. But she had Wahida, her mother, her savior, the beam of hope in her life, the only woman she considered to be more beautiful than the legend of Haba Khatun, the only one who filled her heart with a sense of totality. Wahida would cover her hair with a scarf matching her dress whenever she went out, applying some itar right above the collarbone, a scent that will last for the remaining day. Hope is like the crevice in the wall from where light comes in and illuminates the whole room. Hope is always there. Even the cynics like your father secretly hope for things to become better. Her mother used to tell her on their long silent walks back home from the grocery store. This place will bloom one day. The red of the chinar in the autumn will replace that of the blood. There will be no barbed wires, only open gates, inshallah. Wahida was the crevice in the wall for Inayat. Every day she sat cross-legged on the floor, covered with the carpet, while her mother combed and oiled her hair sitting on the sofa. The news reporter on the air, Akashwani, talked about the recent deaths, the cross-firing at the LOC, and the protests in a baritone voice. While he spoke about the conflict, she put forth her opinions as if they mattered. No one in the world has conquered anything with the help of a sword. Only words and ideas resonate through history. She will jeer at the reporter's voice as she applied the almond oil on Inayat's scalp, massaging it with her soft fingers as the radio flickered with the buzz. Wahida had always had a sense of optimism, a positive notion about everything around her, but Inayat, she felt safe with her, even if only for a short period of time, safe under her innocuous eyes that were oozing with a beam of hope, the touch of her fingers, and the aroma of almond oil. They will sit there motionless for a long time, listening to the songs dedicated to lovers, family, and friends on Vivid Bharti, a cup of kawa in their hands, the smell of cinnamon, and the warmth of the angiti. Wahida had applied for the position of a lecturer at the University of Kashmir on the northeastern bank of Placid Dal Lake. After completing her education from the same place, she was the youngest and the only one who had received proper college education amongst the two sisters and a brother, but somehow it seemed that the only lessons she remembered were the ones that she received from the Maulvi under the peepal tree. She often recounted how he urged them to pray and to have faith in the one and only God. She remembered everything clearly, as if it had happened yesterday. She talked to Inayat, trying to impart the values that she had learned from him. Wahida would not have made it to the college if it were not for her brother. He insisted on sending her to study. 7 months after she had completed her graduation, her father forced her to marry. Kabul, Kabul, Kabul. I do, I do, I do. The moment she said it for the third time, everyone clapped and the elders hugged. But she saw her dreams on a pyre as the ashes awaited her. But Makbul was nothing like what she extrapolated. Instead of asking her to sit at home, he urged her to study. If not for him, she would have never been where she was. Her life changed as if one season was paving the way for another time after time, except one peculiar thing. She still traveled on the shikaras as she did when she was young. She would sit at the front and act as the guiding light as she crossed the lake diagonally to reach the campus where she studied. Even today, when she came back after teaching, she collected the narcissus flower from the boat shop every evening. She would reach home, the pashmina's hijab perfectly covering her hair and only revealing what is necessary, her face, and she would replace the white flower in the vase with the fresh ones just before she went to pray. The pious women prayed 5 times a day, and you could see that God resided on her tongue all day long. Inshallah, she would say after every wish, after every line she spoke, at the end of every sentence. I prayed 5 times the day my father died, she always said. It wouldn't matter if I prayed 6 or 7 times, the consequences would always be the same. Prayers don't have the power to change the course of destiny. Then why do you pray? Asked the naive Inayat. Because it gives me hope. Can you clean your room? Look at it, she said, frowning. Inayat's room was a mess, as it always has been. Some mornings, when she woke up early, she found her mother praying on her grey mat, her hands cupped and the Quran lying open on the folding book holder. Inayat will stand taking the support of the door as she watched Wahida turn her neck left and right, praying with all sincerity. You used to wake up every morning to pray with me when you were young, she told Inayat from time to time, indirectly compelling her to pray, afraid to say it out open. But Inayat could never ascertain her stance on God. It was always fumbling between the pious mother and the skeptic father. Does going to the mosque really buy you the ticket to paradise? Makbul said as Wahida picked up an umbrella. It was pouring, but she was adamant to go to the mosque. The streets were drenched with the water, and the sound of the rain was overshadowing every other noise. Wahida could make out that it was not just raining, it was torrential, but now that he had questioned her, she was even more obstinate. Ultimately, he dropped her in his Fiat but didn't step inside the walls of the compound as he sat inside the car, dropping the ash out of the window. There had always existed a disparity between them when it came to the matters of religion, but neither of them caused Inayat to believe in their ideas. Makbul was a poet in the times of war, the poet who thanked the war for the chaos it provided him. He thought that poetry was vital to give a voice to people's frustration. Though he was somewhat respected in the literary circle of the valley, the others only knew him as an alcoholic writer who spends all day at his home. When he walked down to the butcher shop or the wine shop wearing his suit, people greeted him, but not because they knew who he was, only because they had known him for too long. Makbul never wore the Ferran outside the boundaries of his house. He always wanted to look in a mint condition and credited it as one of the reasons as to why he was superior. Makbul basked in the sunlight of his own persona. None of them, neither Wahida nor Inayat, seemed to recall a day when he did not shave or a time when he had visited the market not wearing his suit. His wardrobe was more complicated than his counterparts. He had a wide range of tailored suits hanging in the closet, iron shirts stacked according to the colors, a hanger holding all his ties. He had a combination for every dress. The brown shoes with the khaki suits, the red tie with the gray one, and he never deviated from his combinations. Everyone thought he was a demented and self-obsessed lunatic, but only until he cut everyone's down to size with his words. He was home most the time, and unlike the other families in the area, it was Wahida who went out to work on a regular basis. Makbul took care of the chores and their daughter, which included her homework and her education. Many a times he simply asked her to complete her homework and dug into his poems. Even when he was not intoxicated, he was not interested in textbooks or books that had no soul, as he liked to call them. They would be sitting barely 5 feet away. He sat on his recliner, and Inayat sat cross-legged on the sofa. The fountain pen in his hands kept moving in intervals and staining the paper like a Rorschach ink block. He was always doing something while she memorized the dates and the formula. Either he was writing poems or reading the novels, and the other times he was writing letters to distant friends. Galip, that was what his friends called him in his college days, referring to the revered poet. He had never planned to become a poet, but he had been reading poetry since the day he hit puberty. It was something that filled the void inside me, he would say, explaining his love for the poems. It still does. There's always something missing, an impulse for something, anything. Then I write a poem and the world feels complete. He had preserved his diary, which he used to have in the college days. Sometimes, when he was not home, Inayat picked it up, standing on the small stool, and brought it down to read his poems. She ran a finger on the small marks written with the pencil and smelled that aroma of an old book and touched the dried petals that he had so keenly preserved in it. He knew that she fiddled with his diary, but he always pretended to be oblivious. Maybe this stirs an urge in her to read, to write, he often thought to himself. Makbul had decided to open a publishing house in Srinagar after he realized that there was none in the whole wide valley. His dreams eventually became his realities, and he named it after none other than his daughter. A top government official of the state had come for its inauguration. When they talk about it, something that they did very often, he will stand up, take out a thick family album from a shelf in his study, and show his daughter the photos for the 9th time. Inayat was still an infant, sleeping soundly in her mother's arms, who was standing next to Makbul and the officials as he cut the red ribbon on the newly painted door. In the various picture that followed, Inayat saw parts of her childhood, people she knew and people she knows. Her paternal uncle, who died when she was 3, and Rasul, Makbul's childhood friend. Sometimes both of them sat in the living room while Wahida carried out the chores or corrected the notebooks and examinations sheets, and he told her about his childhood, which was fraught with anecdotes, including her grandfather and Rasul and his elder sister Ruhia, who now lived in America. Whenever Rasul came to their house to smoke a hookah or to drink, which he did secretly, he would tell them about her life in America. All of them would sit there with their ears and eyes open, mesmerized, listening to him. Wahida would filled up with envy, but she smiled on the outside as she heard the word America repeatedly. Ruhia called yesterday. She had been promoted. Her office is on the 57th floor now, he would say, caressing his ever-growing beard that was touching his collarbone now, and they all be in a daze after hearing her stories. Inayat had met her once when she came to India, but she was too young to recall that. She only knew of her from the various pictures her family album had to offer. She wondered sometimes how uncanny all these relationships are. She knew all about her. If she was to meet her today, she would recognize Ruhia in the first look. She would know how she drinks her. Russell helped Makbul with the publication house, mostly with the finances. He came from money, and an investment in his friends was something he did without even asking. They shared a bond that meant more than money or blood. It was an outcome of love and trust in the good times and in the bad. The profits were not really shooting up. Makbul had started investing money from his own pocket. How should I write worthy poems without a dash of misery? He questioned his spouse with a smile, while she continued doing what she did. Her thin brows still arched as Makbul smiled and winked as if he had accomplished something great. They were not as rich as they thought they would be almost 20 years back now, but they were not destitute either. They owned saffron plantations in Pulwama that constantly made sure that they had wood in the fire and bread on their tables. After his brother's death, Makbul was the only heir to the vast violet fields, a massive patch of purple flowers that carried the fine crimson strands of the spice. Even when his brother Yasin was still breathing, Makbul looked after the plantations. He would travel to the Pulwama districts to inspect the fields and pay the workers once or twice every month. Boarding a local bus, he will travel for almost an hour before reaching there, and he will be home in the evening with a basket of mauve and lilac-colored saffron flowers for the sake of Wahida's affinity towards them. Thank you for staying tuned. I hope you'll continue to tune in, and I am very happy to read and share this wonderful novel with you all. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe, and also share your thought and your feedback in the comment section below. That will really help me to improve for the upcoming videos. Thank you and take care.